Hey, welcome back. Episode 3 of the Secret Guitar Club. In this episode, I sit down with Jeff, owner of String Theory, a new guitar shop in beautiful Camden, Maine. It's a beautiful guitar shop, too. I've been in there a few times, just gorgeous space. And Jeff has a collection of really interesting guitars. Definitely check his shop out if you're ever in Camden, and I do recommend that. It's a beautiful part of the country. I enjoyed this conversation with Jeff. It was great to talk to a shop owner and get the perspective of opening a new guitar shop. Enjoy. Hey, Jeff, how are you? Thanks for
Good, how are you?
joining the Guitar Club. I'm happy you joined today, and I've been in your shop once before. Looking forward to getting back again. And before we talk about your shop, tell me a little bit about yourself. When did you start playing guitar?
I think the first time I played guitar was when I was 11.
Hmm.
That's when I started taking lessons. And I started with acoustic guitar, like most people, and uh, had that whole, prove your commitment from my parents, and saved up some money while proving that commitment, and bought an electric guitar a couple years later. Which I still have. It's downstairs, though I've kind of taken it apart a little bit.
What is it?
It's a 40th anniversary Fender Strat American Standard.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of us out
saved
there.
up and went all out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty common one for people our age.
Yeah. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So did you play after you? Do you still play acoustic, or do you play mostly electric now?
Not really. I don't. I mean, I do a little bit. Play acoustic a little bit. I would say probably the closest I do is hollow body. I really like to play on hollow bodies. I just like the sound. Like I like a little bit of woody sound that right before you hear the electric tones.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So your shop in Camden, Maine is beautiful. Tell me, how did you come about opening the shop? Is it something that you always wanted to do, or how did that come to be?
Um, I think just a confluence of events. I think a lot of people in the mid coast. You kind of have to make your job around here. I think is unless you're doing some standard, things, being a nurse or a doctor or or attorney or something, you kind of have to make your job. And so I had to think about what I was really passionate about, what the community needed, and how I could potentially contribute to the community. Um, and so that ended up being a guitar store. I mean, I think there was one here called K2 for a long time, and then before that, Northern Kingdom. And they had been hubs for people that they really missed. I think K2 closed, I think, 5 or 6 years ago,
Hmm.
and people just really missed having that around. And so I saw it as a void that I could potentially fill, as my contribution to the community and my job. you know
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, your shop is gorgeous. I love how it's two
Yeah.
stories, hardwood floors, a lot of great light, good like couches around to like hang out, and I always see people playing in there, which I think is just so cool.
Yeah,
Um, did you have your eye on that specific location?
I did for, I would say, almost 2 years.
Hmm.
Actually, maybe even a little more than 2 years. It was a long time. I saw this building for sale when I first started thinking about opening up some kind of a shop or a small business in the mid coast. And I saw it for sale, and I just knew that it was exactly what I was looking for. I just needed, I say just knew, but I saw it, and I had that feeling that it was the right one. And I just felt I should do the due diligence and continue to look for a while. And so I did that. I looked for a long time and didn't find anything that even came close to you
Yeah.
know, what this meant to me as a space. Um, it just reminded me a lot of a couple of the guitar stores in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan,
Mm.
where they're right downtown. So you could just be walking, as a teenager. I remember we'd just be walking around downtown, and then after school, and maybe studying at the Union or something, and then walk right by and just pop in and play some guitars for a bit. And I think that to me felt like what I something that I wanted to recreate was that feeling of something right downtown. Also the feeling of it being kind of like a house in a very open space where people can hear each other from, basically somebody could be playing guitar upstairs and I'm downstairs doing email, and I can just yell, "Hey, that sounds great," or something, or "Hey, what is that this song? Or are you playing Blue and Green right now?" Or, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think the space is definitely something I have zero regrets about. It was a really,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I think you achieved that vision because it was unlike any guitar shop I'd ever walked into. It's certainly not like the big box stores. It's got a very down home vibe and just a really comfortable layout.
what
And
you're aiming for. Yeah,
unlike other big guitar stores, your inventory is super unique.
yeah,
The things that you post on Instagram and the guitars that I saw in there, I don't think I recognized one guitar that was in there. And
yeah.
it's funny, I just interviewed Paul McAvoy in Portland.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the week
Yeah,
before last. And I noticed, after that interview, I noticed that you were posting some of his guitars, and he'd let me know that he'd had a couple up there. So
yeah.
tell me, what's your process on that, or what's your kind of how do you think about inventory and what you want to sell?
So I think Paul and I actually have a very similar mindset about guitars, in that Paul really likes to make innovative guitars, things that have, some unique twist to them, or something, just something interesting about them, or some tech thing that's not on very many guitars. And, um, I think that's how he and I ended up kind of bonding, and how he ended up putting up a few guitars in our shop.
Hmm.
And I think for me, it's just that I find, uh, and not to yuck other people's yum. I know some people really love it, but I just find Guitar Center and, I mean, other, like the old school, like, used Fender and Gibson guitar store, I find it so boring and depressing. I mean, I think it just, it's not that I don't appreciate a good vintage guitar. It's just that, I feel like there's been that same old guitar store feeling for a lot of places for a long time. And I just feel like it's time for something new and interesting. And, with retail, you always have to compete with online. And, people aren't going to go to a shop if you're just carrying what Guitar Center is carrying, because somebody else, a bigger company, can do it cheaper. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's really smart. It's funny as you were saying that, I was thinking like, guitars are so timeless, right? Like a Fender Telecaster today is the same Fender Telecaster that was made in 1950 for the most part.
Right.
And I think that is just amazing that we're using something today in our culture that's the exact same. You can't really improve upon it. And I hear what you're saying with it kind of being a little bit boring and stale when you see the same old guitars all the time. But at the same time, I feel like there are so many boutique guitar makers out there right now. I find them on Instagram and so forth, YouTube, and I think it's really cool of you to celebrate that. Because everyone's always going to be able to find a Strat or a Telecaster or a Les Paul, but there's so many really really high end terrific guitars being made that
Yeah,
need a stance, need a place to be shown. So good for you.
absolutely. And I think that, that's exactly something I would love to do. I just, it's really interesting and fascinating for me to go out and meet people who are just have their own unique take on things. And, I was just out in California. I went to Griffin Strings in Palo Alto over Christmas, and just met this gentleman who, had really cool ideas for what he wanted to do differently with hollow body guitars and semi hollows. And it was just such a fascinating and interesting conversation. And it was like, I mean, the same kind of thing, the same kind of sentiment as Paul and I, which is just, there are enough Fenders and Gibsons out in the world to last us until the sun turns black, and it is interesting as a thing to do, but as a primary thing, why not celebrate this person who's building, like, the craftsmanship of somebody who's building an absolutely fantastic guitar by themselves or with one other person, or
Yeah.
and here in part of what inspired me to do this locally is that the amount of very very talented woodworkers who either currently do build guitars or instruments, or could and would like to learn, is really high.
Yeah.
I've had people come into our shop who, I had one week where 6 people, and I'm not exaggerating, came in and showed me some of their work, and it's all like amazing museum quality guitars
Yeah.
made by one person in their shop in the woods in Maine,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and they're these really beautiful pieces. I think one of the other things that we like to think about the guitars in our shop as is, I mean, they're also art, right? I mean, they're functional art effectively. So, you could buy one of these guitars, put it on the wall, and it'll look like a piece of art on your wall. But then when you take it down and play it, it's one of the best guitars you've ever played.
Yeah.
And that's really
Yeah.
that kind of dual functionality we were looking for. And instead of getting the same cheap $15 guitar stands that fall over all the time,
Hmm.
why not have a local woodworker craft some, out of some nice oak or something like that? And, it's something that you could have in your living room and not feel,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
It's a
tacky or
piece
weird.
of furniture. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm a woodworker. I love making things, and I also love guitars, and I sort of like love that confluence of all of it. And I'm interested in talking to some guitar makers going forward. I'm just really interested in the whole thing. I think it's really, really a cool thing. Do you have any guitars around that you could maybe bring on a show really quick? Anything handy?
Uh, sure. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this is a Barlow. We're gonna
Yeah.
get a few of these this summer, and so you can see,
Oh
these
yeah.
inlays are just absolutely beautiful. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to see with the glare, but the way
Yeah.
that the strings, just pop off of this woodwork here is
Yeah.
amazing. And I mean, it plays incredible and it looks incredible, and you could
Yeah.
easily use it as either art or or just it gets an incredible sound to it also.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, and so we're going to get a few of that of Ricky Barlow's guitars in here. Hopefully, we're hoping by the springtime they'll be here. Um, and that's just an example of somebody who's doing something different. Also, I
Yeah.
mean, they still have a bit of the Fender Gibson-y feel in the style of the body, but they're different. I mean, they're doing something new. So yeah, that's one example.
Yeah.
I was
Absolutely.
going to say, if Paul's guitars, I probably should show them at some point, but I think they're a ways away right now. They're packed away in
That's okay.
our little guitar humidor that we
Yeah,
have.
nice,
Um,
nice. How
so
about amps? What kind of interesting amps do you carry?
so what we carry for amps, um, our two dealerships that we have are with Headstrong,
Hmm.
which is a somebody who hand wires their amps. I think it's just one guy in Asheville, North Carolina, and he's doing well, thankfully.
Yeah, yeah.
That got a little scary there for a minute, but
Oh yeah,
um, he makes these awesome Fender clones, but it's kind of his own reimagining of them, and they are impeccable. I mean, you can put them on you know, uh, any setting. Sounds good.
yeah.
You're not going to get a bad sound out of them. And then I'm really excited. I haven't actually tried a Bartell yet, but we have a Bartell that's supposed to come either today or tomorrow. And I'm really excited about that. I don't have a lot to report on it because I haven't spent very much time with it like I have with the Headstrongs.
Yeah.
But I am extremely excited because I've heard nothing but amazing things about his amplifiers.
That's
And then one other, Carr. We just got a dealership with Carr as well, with CARR,
nice.
which he builds these really cool. I'm from, like I said earlier, Ann Arbor, which is about 45 minutes from Detroit.
Hmm.
And so they caught my eye actually at Griffin Strings when I was there, because it just has all their amps are kind of, I think, designed off of a like 50s cars kind of thing, like the
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Skylark or Impala or that kind of thing, and they look really really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so like a lot of boutique builders are Some of them are making these really cool guitars these days that look like 50s guitars, like they're almost like star shaped a
Yeah.
little bit, like offsets and stuff like that, like the Jazzmaster kind of look, but then giving it a little bit more of a like a pointed kind of shape to them. So anyway, I
That's
just thought
awesome.
it would be a good aesthetic match to have, those car amps and then these offset guitars. So
Yeah, and again, I just think it's so great that you're carrying a unique inventory. Give something, it's something that when I'm in town, I'll be like, hey, I want to go see what he has today. What interesting things are in there?
right.
And I imagine that helps bring people in. You talked a little bit earlier about, the community aspect of it. Has it been well received in town? I know it's a small town. I spent some time up there. But tell me about sort of the interaction with the community.
I mean, I hope so. It's, you never know what people are saying when you're not around, but I assume, people, the feedback I get is very, very good.
Yeah.
Which it's really feels nice to have that happen. I mean, when you do something like this, you're really kind of putting yourself out there, kind of putting your neck on the chopping block for everybody's judgment, and hearing people say like this is refreshing or this is cool, or even just I think one of my favorite things about the community aspect of things is there's a lot of people who've come into the shop and just been jamming and by happenstance are now friends, and they play
Yes.
music together. I take guitar lessons over at Mariner Music, and that was part of my day off activity today was to take a guitar lesson. And Chris was telling me all about how he met up yesterday to jam with somebody he met in the shop, and he jammed with somebody else he met at a little workshop we had for pedals here. We've had the other day we had two college students who were home for the weekend who just happened to wander in at the same time and start jamming together, and sometimes it's just we kind of have these little stations set up with different amps and guitars.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have somebody playing on one station and then somebody playing on the couch or something, and they just kind of look over and see what the other person's doing, and then they start playing along with them. And we videotaped some of it, and it oftentimes sounds really cool, and just impromptu. And I absolutely love.
Yeah, that's got to be rewarding because it's hard. A guy my age, it's hard to like. It's nice to have a spot where you can run into someone with similar interests. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to find somebody who has similar interests. Because I just play on my couch. I don't play out or anything like that. But it's cool to have a community aspect, somewhere where people can congregate and just hook up like that naturally and have it be sort of organic, which is great. Not
Yeah.
like a post on Facebook like, "Hey, I'm looking to jam with somebody." Where
Yeah, well, then you show up and there's all these expectations, and
yeah,
you feel like you're performing, and that's not not that there's anything wrong with performing. It's just that that's not the only reason to play music or to play guitar. I mean, it's we talk about this a lot in the shop. These conversations come up a lot where it's therapeutic.
hmm
It's I play guitar for me, not for you.
right,
And that's
right.
it's when I I know that sounds a little bad, but it's just
I'm
the
the
point
same way.
of it. Yeah, the point of it is not for it's for me to say no. I'm playing guitar right now, and I need to focus. And just kind of having that time to myself to learn how to play a song that I really want to play. And there is so much that it does for your brain and your mental health and things, and just
Yeah,
it uses so many different parts of your brain that it really is just such a calming activity. Um, and that's something that I really think is huge. Um, we have just as many people who come in here who are teenagers who want to learn how to perform, or people in their 20s who are performing, or 30s. Um, we have just as many people who are, if not more, people who are 75 and picking up a guitar for the first time
yeah,
and saying, I'm retired, I have time now, and I know it's good for my fingers, I know it's good for my mind, and it's also a way for them to meet people and get out of the house. And
yeah.
it's the kind of thing where I think there are so many more benefits to it than just like a rock concert or something. Not that that's bad.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. I feel the
Yeah,
same way. I play for myself. I don't play for
right.
anyone else. Um, it would be fun to play with other people who are, maybe at my level or a little bit better, because I know that you can improve a lot that way.
Right.
But what I love about guitar is that it's always there when I want it. If I had a
Yeah.
good day, if I had a bad day, it doesn't care. It's just always there, and I can pick it up, and it's a great lifetime activity, hobby.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and if you're, if you're like me and you're kind of a fidgety person, then
exactly.
sometimes it's nice to just when you're reading something or learning, watching a tutorial on YouTube for how to use square systems or something. It's just nice to have a guitar in your hands and be kind of noodling or
Yeah,
getting the feeling of, like the other day I was trying to figure out how to input a contractor into square, and I was practicing spread triads, and
yeah,
it was just kind of a soothing thing to do in the background while I'm listening to this. Like, I hate working with OSs. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah.
it's not fun. So there's a not fun thing but underneath it, I could kind of like,
I hear you.
yeah.
Well, it's been great chatting with you today. Why don't you let us know where people can find you? Where are you on socials? Where are
Yeah.
you on the internet? And where are you in person?
So on our socials and all our email, our website, it's all String Theory Camden.
Yep.
So stringtheorycamden at gmail.com, stringtheorycamden.com, at String Theory Camden for Instagram. Um, and you can find our Facebook through Instagram. I'm still figuring that one out. One of the million things I have to
Yep.
handle on. And we're at 57 Bayview Street, which a lot of people, especially the summer crowd, probably know it as Uncle Willie's previously,
Gotcha.
like the candy store. And we've, yeah, kind of taken over that space.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a great space.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, we used to go in there with my kids to get candy, and it was kind of that old school candy shop. I'd forgotten that that's what it was. That's so funny. But
Yeah,
I encourage everyone to stop in if you're ever in Mid-Coast, Maine, beautiful Camden, Maine. Jeff's got a great shop. So thanks again, Jeff. Enjoyed talking to you.
thank you so much, Brian.
Yep. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.